April 9th, 1682. Robert de La Salle becomes the first European to reach the mouth of the Mississippi River, claiming the land for France and naming it Louisiana, which is better than his first choice, Mouthtown. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And joining us once again, that's right, the boys are back in town, except back isn't the word because Sammy's joining us for the first goddamn time. What am I doing? Sammy Hanser, everyone.
It feels like I've been here.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so comfortable. Like, you know, we're all just sitting around in our robes, kind of taking it easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing a pants robe. You guys can't see.
Love that.
Pants robe. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the bottom half of a robe cut off at the midpoint. So it's just like a sheet that you've kind of loosely draped around your legs.
Yeah. And it's always open. It's just it doesn't close because it has no structural integrity. It just hangs on my waist like that.
It's very impressive the fact that you have managed to not get arrested for wearing that.
Yeah, and I have my windows open too, which is kind of my neighbors hate me.
Does it start above the belt or is there no belt and it's just
No, there's a belt. There's a belt.
Okay.
It starts at the belt line.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, great.
I would show you, but it's pornographic.
Right, of course. And we could have saved that for the after show.
Yeah.
Anyway, Zach, what do we normally do on this show other than, look at each other's? Anyway.
So normally this is a show where we look at each other's dicks. Today we're going to do something a little different and talk about a person or event from history. So in this particular episode, we're going to continue our series on con artists throughout history. And what'll happen is you'll hear one of our hosts give an actual account of what the real life story of this con artist was, according to the government sanctioned, textbook and or Wikipedia version of events. And then you'll hear an alternate take from deep in the bowels of 8chan or something, or Reddit or something, that can be as batshit banana crazy as the person presenting it wants it to be. And at the end of the episode, we'll determine which of these two stories is going to be the true history of that person going forward. And I didn't do either of the main stories this time, so I don't know what the topic is.
We're talking about Kaspar Hauser.
Kaspar Hauser.
That's right. And last episode with Byron Graham, we talked Nat Warlaw, right?
Mm-hmm. Nat Warlaw, yep. The Indian con artist.
Who sold the
Taj Mahal like 3 times?
Sold the Taj Mahal 3 times, and there's like no fucking details about it, and it's absolutely maddening. The alternate history won out for that finally, which was, I fucking wrote it. I should remember. Definitely, it had like a Harold and Maude thing going on. It was sort of about his post-retirement life.
Right.
Yeah. So
become a movie star or something like that. Yeah, I feel like that's what happened.
I think that. Oh yeah, and then there was another, like, it sort of went where he became the sort of mentor of the Wet Bandits.
It's been a long time, guys. We have not recorded in almost a month because life has been crazy this month.
That's right.
So forgive us our forgetfulness.
We're at 2 surgeries in this household. So I would say one more and it's free, but that's not how the American medical system works.
That would be great, though, if they got a buy 2, get 1 free.
Oh, yeah.
Free,
it's like
a loyalty program.
Yeah. If you had like a Subway card, but for, getting your spleen out.
Like, we know you. Get in here. You're a regular.
Yeah. Like when you're at a bar and the bartender's like, "Hey, this one's on me. I've seen you around."
What'll it be today? Appendectomy? You got it. I did not differentiate my characters there. That's just not.
Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name and also what your insides look like.
Yeah, that's why they never really play the extended version of the Cheers theme song, because it gets very unsettling. But this time, Sammy, you're doing the actual history.
Yeah, let me tell you about Kaspar Hauser. I know about him. There might be some approximations in there.
That is totally fine. I have a mysterious unnamed source up here, so I can double check things if needed.
Okay. All right, so check this out. Should we do I can just go into it, right?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, Kaspar Hauser. Kaspar Hauser's a pretty mysterious guy. So around and I'm just guessing here, but around 1828, in Germany, a boy about 16 or so walks into the square, and he's making these kind of like intelligible sounds. Like he so he's making, all right, can I do that over? I'm sorry, I got to
go for it.
But all right, so 1828, young Kaspar, a budding adolescent.
Not to be confused with the rapper Young Kaspar.
Young Casp. Yeah. He comes into the square, and he's making unintelligible sounds. He's kind of like causing a ruckus, kind of like just gesticulating. There might have been some gyrating in there. There's no telling. And people don't know what's going on with this.
Who's doing some Fortnite dances as 16-year-olds are wanting to do?
The thing with the arms that everyone loves.
Oh, flossing? That everyone loves. Of course. We did it at my grandma's funeral. I remember because she loved it so much.
He did the 1828 version of that. So he was a real entrepreneur in a sense. And with all the attention that was being garnered by him, people were like, what's going on with this guy? And they picked up on him, and they found a note pinned to his chest. And this is one much like you would if you were in first grade and you didn't know where your mittens were or something like that. His was like that, but a lot more tragic.
Sure. What could be more tragic than not knowing where your mittens are?
I'll tell you. He was the son of a cavalryman. And though he was a celebrated cavalryman, he grew up in isolation from him. And because of that, he didn't know how to speak, but apparently he was able to recognize some words. A rich benefactor took great interest in Kaspar Hauser because he couldn't speak.
Sure.
And he took care of him, and he decided to teach him how to read and write to unlock what gems could be in his mind.
And I'm just double checking. So apparently in this note, there's a line that says, "He writes my handwriting exactly as I do," which seems like maybe a clue about the veracity of this note, but we'll see.
Kaspar was a great and quick learner, if that's what you're saying.
Oh yeah, just really for someone who claimed to be kept in a dark cell like all of his life, just really on the ball.
So that's what the note revealed, was that he was kept in a cell his entire life, only got bread occasionally. The bread was very hard, if my historical documents, if I can recall what they said. Very grainy. Like, when you get 12 multi-grain bread. Like
yeah.
this was like 40
Sure.
grains
Yeah.
in there, rough. Like
Sure.
scrape the top of your mouth. So many.
It's Captain Crunch, essentially.
Yeah.
It's what it was.
It was more grains than bread, really.
Yeah. But you know, that was good for him because all he wanted was grainy, hard bread and water. And he subsisted on that and very little human interaction. A man would come into his cell every once in a while, slightly teach him to write, and probably drop off more grains.
Yeah, I mean, combined trips, that's just efficiency right there.
Yeah. Here's where Casper's life takes a turn. He becomes a little bit of celebrity, and not because of his short German shorts that we're imagining. You know, the green ones.
Of course.
Not because of his outfit, but because of what his predicament kind of reveals about the human mind. And there were some people who were onto that, and they wanted to stop him. So as Kaspar was minding his business, walking through a park one time, he was stabbed. He was stabbed right in the chest. And this was right around the time when he was beginning to learn how to speak and reveal the mysteries of how his life came to be or what his life was like.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm seeing like, so this guy allegedly like thought he was a child of the forest. And then it came out that I guess theoretically he was in a dungeon. He never met a human. He would just fall asleep sometimes and his nails and hair would be cut.
Yes.
Which,
and he
honestly, I'd be fine with. That'd be great, honestly. I don't want to have to go to the barber.
Yeah, nice massage. And the only thing he said at first was, I want to be a cavalryman like my father and horse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very horses were very popular in Germany at the time.
He was like sort of the original horse boy.
Yeah.
This was during the horse craze.
Everyone seemed to love horses from like probably about like 1400 to like right around 1909.
Till cars, basically.
Yeah, people were just crazy about him. And Germany was no different. They loved the horses, so I could understand why that was one of Kaspar Hauser's.
And then after, in like 1914, you start seeing the TikToks about how like, what's up with the boomers and their horses? You guys need to.
Can't trust them.
Centennials, whatever. What's the name of a person born in 1900?
Dead.
That we'll go with that, baby.
Yeah. And as Caspar's, this was only one time of violent interaction that happened with him, and then another instance when he was walking alone, another person assaulted him while he was in the park. And his wound was fatal. And they thought he was going to pull through for a while, and he didn't. And it was suspected that he might have been a son of royalty or a dignitary, and that's why he was killed. However, years later, research reveals that he was not.
Yeah.
And he might have been a con man who just loved attention and horses.
Yeah, no, the horse love was genuine. Like, how could you not love those beautiful, beautiful ponies?
No.
And I was going to say, like, this is not like naturally a shoe-in for the con artist category, except he's so very clearly conning people. Because like when you said like he moves in with a wealthy benefactor, which is like every kid's dream.
The Little Orphan Annie.
Except unlike Little Orphan Annie, the dude you move in with is not virulently anti-Roosevelt, which is weird.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, there's all those things like he sort of ends up bouncing around between rich dude as each one kind of is like. There was one guy, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he was like, I think this guy can actually read. So he kicked him out of the house, which is sort of a wild ass thing to do. But like,
Hey, we've all pretended to not be able to read for money before.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. That's check out my OnlyFans where I struggle my way through a book.
Yeah.
Just,
Then the
My sign
donations
that-
just start coming in. The GoFundMe. That's really what it's at.
The sign I wrote that says "I can't read" is raising a lot of questions answered by the sign.
Well, underneath I said 99% guarantee. But yeah, when he had like also a very specific way of like folding like secret notes to himself. It was like this very unique triangular fold. And when he was like fatally stabbed, I don't know why I mimed it. They found a note folded exactly like that, on his person that said, "Hauser will be able to tell you quite precisely how I look and from where I am. To save him the effort, I want to tell you from where I come, blank blank. I come from blank blank, the Bavarian border, blank blank, on the river, blank. I will even tell you the name." And then he gives like 3 initials. So it clearly it's like
MLO.
yeah, MLO.
Manchester Light Orchestra. murdered this man.
And my favorite theory about this dude is that like the first stabbing was him trying to get attention, or like I should say to throw attention off of him, and that the second
As
stabbing,
we all have done.
yes, again, check out my other OnlyFans where I stab myself for attention,
Yeah.
and money.
The classic Scream 4. That's a very niche reference.
Spoiler alert.
I was planning on watching that.
That's the only one I haven't seen because I've seen Scream 5 as of this weekend,
Well,
along with Jackass
Sometimes the
Infinite
killers
and Tragedy
stab-
of Macbeth.
you still don't know who done it.
Yeah. So the theory with the second stabbing is that he tried to do it again, to throw attention off himself, and that he just sort of forgot where his heart was, or just like stabbed too hard and stabbed himself in the heart. So not a great con artist.
Yeah. Seems like he was just like, I want a place to live. And in service of that, assuming he was a con artist, which seems probable to me, in service of that, I'm just going to like pretend to be feral forever and live a lower quality. Like it's a really, really like, low rent. Like he wasn't asking for like millions of dollars. He wasn't trying to Bernie Madoff anybody. He was like, I just want to like have a bed and not work.
Listen, he's struggled a lot. Okay, it's hard to know where your heart is when you don't know how to read.
Yeah.
It seems like he was directing. What do you mean? How else
I
is
mean,
he
if
going
you
to know?
saw a picture of like, if someone was like, your heart's there, you'd be like, oh, okay. I don't need to read no more books. I kind of figured it out.
That's a good point.
Hey, a diagram of a human anatomy. There's the heart. I can see the little picture.
You can also just kind of like feel for it a little
Yeah,
bit.
or the
true.
bumping. Yeah.
That's true.
Listeners, we probably edited this out earlier, so I'm going to let you in on a fact, and that's that I fucked up and did not. I was under the impression that Sammy was preparing the true history, and that was not the case, and so we kind of threw him sort of in that role. So we're going to fill out some more of the details, because a lot of this is us. A lot of the next few minutes is going to be us filling in like the last couple details. And I just want to say thank you, Sammy, and I'm so sorry I fucked that up.
It was good improv.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So
it's I mean, there's a lot of it seems like there's a 1928 study that implied that the stab wound was most likely self-inflicted. A lot of people think this guy was like sort of histrionic with a paranoid disorder, and like, I don't know. I feel like the science that I'm reading here lands more on the side of this guy made up some crazy shit and wandered into a town one day and was like, I'm just going to keep doing this for a few years until I stab myself.
It's a pretty good bit.
Fatally.
It's a pretty good bit.
Well,
it's a real Andy Kaufman.
He was setting up another like rich dude, Lord Stanhope,
of the House of Doug.
Yep, of course. Man, if he was a very different comic, he would have had a sitcom in the 2000s called House of Doug. But Lord Stanhope took a liking to Hauser and like gained custody of him at one point, which is just a thing you could do, apparently.
Yeah, how do you have enough money to just like take a person? Like I'll be like, yeah, I'll have him.
Yeah,
that seems interesting.
I'll have one. And so he was one of the people who very much believed that Kaspar Hauser was descended from like Hungarian royalty. And so Stanhope was British and was making a plan to sort of move Hauser from Nuremberg to London. And that was great, but when the plan started falling apart is when Hauser started, when Hauser decided to go with the second stabbing. And Stanhope later said, quote, it was his duty to confess that he had been deceived. And he wrote a book presenting all of the evidence against Kaspar Hauser. And people who are sort of committed to the mythology of Kaspar Hauser as the sort of Count of Monte Cristo or Man in the Iron Mask type figure, suspect Stanhope has ties to like the House of Baden, which is trying to keep the secret of Kaspar Hauser under wraps.
Yeah, in this case, he would have been like the son of like a cousin by marriage to Napoleon was this like Baden and his wife Stephanie. Yeah.
Like there's a very like
theoretically there was a rumor he was related to possibly. From what I'm seeing, it looks like that's been largely disproven, and the DNA evidence from his bloody underwear in 1996 and then another one in 2002 from some hair is like inconclusive to negative on that front.
That's right.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at bloody underwear, but it's also just I pictured him getting like a severe
maybe he didn't
wedgie.
know where his heart was, and he was like,
yeah, it was a couple different tries.
Yeah, the first time it didn't get a lot of publication, but he was like, "Oh, someone stabbed me in the taint."
Yeah, this is like there's an extended end to Romeo and Juliet where he grabs the dagger and is like, "Oh, stab myself in the dick. Oh, that's not my heart."
Like I said, I watched Jackass Infinite this weekend, and there was so much just way more exposed scrotum than I was sort of anticipating.
Okay, so you watched Jackass and you were like, surely there won't be much exposed scrotum in Jackass. Your preconceived notion of Jackass was surely.
What's terrible is that I saw it and there was like 7-year-olds in there with me, and I was like, this is wildly inappropriate.
That is like, even if you were just taking them to a movie to see someone get like punched in the dick by an MMA fighter, like wearing a cup. Like that's still such a wild ass choice.
Yeah. Like shot by a cannon into a used porta potty hole. Whatever the fuck they do these days.
Oh man. But Hauser was buried in the city cemetery in Ansbach. And his headstone reads, quote, "Here lies Kaspar Hauser, riddle of his time." Which I think might be overselling it a little bit, because they still didn't know how germs worked or anything like that. So, fucking cool it,
Well,
Germany.
we skipped the part where he like entered into a war of wits with the Batman.
Oh yeah, sorry. It says Riddler of his time. I totally misread that.
The R got weathered away, but it turns out he had a series of bank robberies where he left elaborate clues.
Kaspar Hauser is a significantly less dumb name than Edward Nygma, I gotta say.
Now I've got to give
Enigma.
Yep. I don't know. I haven't seen the new one yet, so I don't know.
I gotta defend this a little bit, because canonically, I believe his original birth name is Edward Nashton, and he legally changed it to Edward Nygma just because he's a little douche.
Well, now you guys are making me doubt his middle initial E, which I'm pretty sure is right.
I think it's just his first initial, Edward E, and then Nygma. I don't know if he has a canonical middle name, but he might. Maybe he does.
But
it's
Victor Fries is
Query.
Julian Day, all the great shitty Batman villain names. But yeah, that's the true story of Kaspar Hauser.
Harleen Quinzel, classic.
Harleen Quinzel, yeah, of course. And of course, Peter Angwin. And
Yep. They just follow the same
Catherine Woman.
S. Carecrow.
Oh man. Listeners, like I said, I fucked up. And so I am also doing the alternate history, in addition to all the talking my dumb face just did.
Sure.
There's a lot that's unknown about Kaspar Hauser. Granted, I mean, people think he was a con artist, and he parlayed his story into, access to wealthy people and a sort of, notoriety. I don't know how famous he was. Like, I don't know if he, because he kind of strikes me as like a Logan Paul type. Sort of, and I'm looking at his picture right now, and he's got good kind hands. Of like a Logan Paul.
He had a brother named Jake Hauser.
He also got duped by Charizard cards.
Yeah.
Fake Pokemon.
What a dumb era we live in.
Yeah, went to a Japanese suicide forest and posted some footage. Yeah, all that.
Yep. So, to me, he wasn't like a Timothy Chalamet sort of level, but he was still famous.
Sure.
But just because he used parts of his story to con people doesn't mean his whole story was a con. In fact, Kaspar Hauser was kept in a dark cell for a lot of his life. And that's a lot of the reason why he was the way he was and had trouble sort of communicating and being around people. But the seeds of one of his overriding obsessions is a little obscured. And that is that the person who kept him in the cell wasn't a person at all. It was a horse.
Wow.
And when he first arrived in the square in Nuremberg and he was saying horse, he was trying to tell people the villain who had pursued him in his childhood and imprisoned him in his adolescence we don't know much about this horse as an individual. We do know his name was Daddy's Little Rascal.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he got a popular Netflix series later on.
Yeah, of course, and that was called Stranger Things.
Sure.
But it's not known if the horse had any ties to the House of Baden, or if it was just kind of like a dickhead of a horse, who, horses can be jerks too.
Well, I think we mentioned that horses were super popular until like around 1904. Mm-hmm. So at the time, the horse lobby was incredibly powerful. Mm-hmm. And these horses thought they could get away with fucking anything. Because they were like, how else are you going to get around? We hold all the cards in our hooves.
Yes.
They had horses at this point had routinely gotten away with murder.
Oh yeah. And I mean, we've all seen the footage of Joe Manchin riding around on a horse. We know everything is sort of.
Have we all seen that?
We've all seen it. But yeah, the horse lobby was sort of like what big oil is today, or like big tobacco was 40 years ago. But the key difference is the horse lobby was actual horses.
And an actual lobby.
Yeah,
they just hung out in the lobby of Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, so it was really nice. Like, it was a nice lobby.
Yeah.
There's of course the hotel bar, which was called Sir Klopsalot. Cloverfield. Yep. Anyway, and of course the bar and grill attached to the restaurant called Belmont Steaks.
Sure.
God damn. So Kaspar was sort of on the run, and when he said his father was a cavalryman, he was right. His father had been murdered by a horse. He wasn't sure if it was the same horse, but these horses run in tight circles.
Yeah.
Like
if you want them to.
If you want, that's basically what dressage is.
Yeah, like, or if you have ever seen the Kentucky Derby, you'll see them run in tight circles.
And that also explains the sort of diet he was fed, of just like a bunch of loose grain when he was kept in prison, because it was just a horse diet. Yeah,
the bag was kept around his ears.
Yeah.
He was known to try to eat whole apples when walking around town.
Yeah. He slept on a block of salt. Things like this.
So of course, Kaspar settles in with a series of rich people who, in a way, he has a sort of like early form of Stockholm syndrome, because he doesn't quite get life around the bipeds a little bit.
Yeah.
People are laying down to sleep. They're, cutting up their food. They're going to a bathroom to shit. They're doing all sorts of things like that. And he's not really used to that. And in a way, it's tragic, because it was against his will that he was held in prison by a horse, but he now sort of knows no other life.
I think he was imparted as a child with the secrets of the car, and the horse lobby was like,
yeah, of course.
He could draw the design of the car in the exact same way his father did.
There was a prophecy among the horses. Yep.
Yeah.
It was cruel, but I heard that they actually didn't keep him in a cage, that it was a stable. It's a form of ironic kind of punishment.
Yeah, when he said I had a stable upbringing, it was like his first pun, and everyone was really happy, because that's kind of like advanced wordplay for a kid who hasn't been able to speak. I mean, it's not a great pun, but it's if you haven't been speaking for 16 years, it's pretty good.
For sure.
And so it's when he's trying to make a new life for himself that daddy's little treasure. Well, I can't remember what I called called the horse. Finally catches up with him, and so there's the first stabbing, and like Casper's found in the cellar of the person's house where he's staying, just a cut on his forehead, because the horse was holding a knife in its teeth. In a way, it's amazing the horses were so threatening because they don't have opposable thumbs.
Yeah,
so
you'd think they would use their. You would think they would use their hooves.
You would think.
And famously, one thing horses don't know about is the location of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have trouble with that one.
Yeah. And of course, no one believed him when he kept saying, like, the horses are after me. And people are like, Kaspar, you're crazy. So that's when he decided to sort of cry wolf a little bit. And that's
cry
when
horse.
He set up, to cry horse. Yep. Don't know why I didn't see that one coming. Mm-hmm. And set up the fake stabbing. And of course, he got ready. He had like the thin little dagger that was hopefully not going to, do any lasting damage.
And he had a horse's idea of anatomy.
Yes, he had a horse's idea of anatomy. And at first he was trying to choose which of his 4 stomachs he would need to.
You can lose one and be fine.
Mm-hmm. When he pulled back the knife and he heard from behind him a sudden, unexpected whinny of just like a horse pulling a rich person's carriage. And that threw him off so much that he plunged the knife into his heart. And that is the story of Kaspar Hauser, hunted of horses.
And I think we should clarify, at the time when horses pulled carriages, the actual thing that was going on was those were accessories for the horses. It was not for the benefit of the rich people. The horse was going wherever they wanted. And then the person was just an accessory to the rich, powerful horse.
You think a rich person wants to spend a lot of time just staring at a horse's butt when they're going from place to place? No.
It's a power play. It's a sex thing for the horse.
It's always a sex thing.
Yeah.
Said Oscar Wilde. That's a cool point.
Yeah. I think that was it was either him or Sigmund Freud, I think, who said that thing. But that is the actual alternate history of Kaspar Hauser. It was the first time So, listeners, I'll reveal another thing. I fucked up twice, and I thought Zach was doing the alternate for this episode.
What had actually occurred was Sammy volunteered to do the alternate. Brian was up to do the actual. I was scheduled to do neither. So I did, in fact, do neither. And then Brian thought that I was supposed to do the alternate. So it was a comedy of errors. We haven't recorded for a month. It's been a stressful time.
Like I said, surgeries.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
There's no denying that.
Before we move on, listeners, you can always write us a letter, ask us a question, leave us a comment at revisionistpodcast.com. Just click on the contact button at the top. Or you can reach out on social media, Twitter or Instagram. Just search Revision Pod on Twitter and revisionist_podcast on Instagram. You can also, if you have a lot of money and you're tired of spending it on good causes, you can pledge on our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And buy an extra vote on episode outcomes and even get your hands on some exclusive shirts and stickers.
We just put out a new shirt that's the Disney logo and it says OK Groomer underneath. Oh, you didn't see this yet. Okay.
What?
This is a thing conservatives are doing now.
No.
Yeah, they're accusing Disney of being groomers because they're not supporting the Don't Say Gay bill.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Guys, listen. Disney's a lot of bad things, but it's not that. So, if you're gonna attack Disney for something, make it encouraging J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Make it for the line "somehow Palpatine returned."
Oh man, Sammy, you're going to I believe the day this is released, you're going to be headlining 3E's in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, come out, Colorado Springs, pull up.
And you've got all the burger restaurants from all over the country: a Whataburger, an In-N-Out, a fucking Five Guys, Good Times. It's there.
I'm doing a burger tour before my actual tour.
Oh man, that honestly sounds fucking like a great idea. But yeah, you have show dates all the time, and listeners, you should always check them out.
Bad Boy Anzer on Instagram, TikTok, Venmo too.
Yeah, for sure.
If anyone wants to make me forget how to speak English, a la Kaspar Hauser.
Well, I would love to not be able to speak English for a little bit, just for the right price.
Yeah.
Zach, you co-host the Movie Trap also.
That's correct. It's a movie podcast. You may have surmised from the title. The premise is basically that me and my two co-hosts, Chris and Russell, we pick a topic, a theme for 3 movies. So, for example, recently we did movies that shift genre in the middle of the movie. And each of us picks something in that theme. And at the end, we compete and vote to see who picked the best movie that fits that theme. And that person gets to pick the following theme. So it's basically just a gamified movie podcast. And if that is interesting to you, you can listen to it. Good news. You can also watch it. It's on YouTube. There's video.
Yeah, listeners, stay tuned for us putting episodes on YouTube. Not sure if we'll end up including actual footage from the Zoom calls, because I haven't told people to prepare for that, so I feel bad putting their image on the internet. But yeah, stay tuned for that.
It's just going to be this audio over some hardcore porn.
Well, softcore. This is a family show.
Well, we can discuss this off mic.
We are also going to put the show up on what is it? Pornhub.
Yeah, there you go.
Not PornTube. The PornTube is just a fleshlight. Anyway, goddamn. That brings us to the judgment phase. And Zach, I don't envy you this episode.
Yeah, this was a weird one because there was a lot of collab. This is maybe the most collaborative episode we've ever done. And, collaborating to read a Wikipedia article is less interesting than collaborating to create a story with your friends. That's the heart of improv. So I want to reward the creative, collaborative nature of the second half of this episode with a victory, because truly we all contributed a little something to that alternate history. There was no single author on that baby, I don't think. So how could I not, how could I not reward myself and my friends here?
Everyone, it's what Kaspar would want.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, also he would want some money and attention.
Yeah, if
as a great con man, that's what he'd want.
If anybody appreciates making up your own history, it's Kaspar Hauser.
But listeners, voting is now open on Patreon, and stay tuned to our Instagram stories the week after this is released for the final round of voting. But Sammy, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for stepping up when I fucked up.
Oh, we had a lot of fun. And I want to see what the votes are too. And I got to learn about Kaspar Hauser. So thank you guys. I'm going to be telling people all about his horse-like behavior and all the... All the
constantly
things he
jumping
did.
over gates and
Yeah.
Yeah.
being a war horse. I've not seen that movie, so I don't know. I've
Neighing.
neighing, of course. Um,
It's about a horse that's in a war. World War One specifically.
and of course, not the horses of the Gulf War, which
That's when horses started going out of style and the horse lobby lost their power.
yeah, that was really like their last hurrah, 1991, the Bush senior years. Because they were also caught funneling money to the Contras.
Yeah.
Zach, thank you as always.
Yep. No problem.
For everyone here at the Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I am Zach Powers.
Have a good time.
Thank you, guys.
April 9th, 193. Septimius Severus is proclaimed Emperor of Rome, still holding the record for third coolest emperor name behind Maximinius Thrax and Derek. April 9th, 1609. Spain and the Dutch sign a treaty that leads to a 12-year truce in the 80 Years' War. It would have lasted longer, but everyone sort of figured they had 27 years of war still to go.
All right, I've got 3 too. April 9th, 1784. The Treaty of Paris is ratified by King George III, ending the American Revolutionary War. In a minor victory, the king sneaks in a clause that Americans must make embarrassingly shitty adaptations of popular British comedies at least once a year. April 9th, 1860. Edouard Leon Scott de Martinville makes the oldest known recording of an audible human voice. It is an ad for Squarespace. And April 9th, 1865, Robert E. Lee surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the war. Lincoln figures, what the hell? After that, I deserve to treat myself to a show.
Those are fire.
Love that.